Hey there everyone, and welcome back to another crypto market update. My name is Brendan from Crypto 101, and so far this week we are continuing to see the theme of volatility reign supreme here. Now, up until this point, the volatility has primarily affected risk on assets like cryptocurrencies and stocks. However, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift here where all assets, regardless of their risk category, are getting affected. Now, I think that paints a very clear picture, or at least a very important picture, of what could be to come. So in this video, I want to focus on what happened, what can continue to happen, and even some of the positive catalysts that are sprinkled inside of here. So it's not all bad. I know it's easy to focus on a lot of the negative at times like this when things are seeing a lot of downside volatility. However, I do not think that is painting the whole picture. And that's what I want to clarify in today's video. So all that we ask here is that if you like the content that we make completely for free here on YouTube, then check out some of the links in the description down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's go ahead and kick things off here. So here is the Bitcoin chart right in front of us. And immediately you're going to know, hey, Bitcoin broke down below 90K here. And this was a pretty substantial move, seeing about a move from around $100,000 all the way down to around $78,000. So from top to bottom over here on Bitcoin, this was about a 20% drop. A lot of people thought that we were going to hold 90K. It was this big support that held for all of November, December, January, and most of February. However, at the very end of the month, we started to see the rollover happen. Now, towards the bottom here, we saw Bitcoin catch a lot of buyers around 78, 79K. It actually ended up holding the 200-day moving average to this point, meaning that we have not closed below it yet. However, we continue to see a lot of volatility. Even over the weekend, on Sunday, Trump came out and he started talking about the U.S. crypto reserve again. And this time we got a little bit of new information. Up until this point, we knew Bitcoin was going to be involved with it, but then he sprinkled in a few other names that we're going to show here in a second. But it has to do with Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Now, obviously, all of those assets went absolutely crazy on this news, and that's where we got this pump over here, where we went from around 78K on Bitcoin all the way up to about 95K on Bitcoin in just 3 short days. However, since then, we have seen Bitcoin lose a lot of its value, fall back down to around 80K, which is the low that we hit today, right around 80, 81. And now Bitcoin's kind of hovering back in the mid 80s, which is where it was at, right before this news happened in the first place. So as a result of this, we've seen about $1 billion in liquidations, both to the up and the downside. Anybody who got short here was wiped out on the move up, and anyone who got long was wiped out on the subsequent move right back down. So we've seen over $1 billion in liquidations. There's a lot of people on both sides, both bulls and bears, getting wiped out over here. And a lot of it has to do with that news. Again, we saw the downside move here, fear of tariffs, fear of some other stuff. And then we saw the news come out and it pumped us up. Now we're getting more news of tariffs, and that's what's kind of leading us back into this. So what is the news and how does it affect the crypto markets? Well, some of us are actually going to find this quite silly because you're going to say, why in the world should U.S. tariffs affect the price of things like cryptocurrencies? I thought we're supposed to be getting into this stuff to be hedged against it in the first place. And you're right to a degree there. However, in this most recent set of news, there's been a lot of speculation and fear of what could trade wars do, and if it's even going to happen in the first place. It looked like it was on, then off, then on, then off. Well, now we're back to this essentially being back on, with the U.S. going to be putting a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, and then there's going to be additional tariffs on China, with a couple of other big key dates coming out, one in March and one at the beginning of April, on things like copper and lumber and semiconductors and a lot of other things that could be included inside of those. So we're looking at this saying, okay, well, it looks like the trade wars are going to go through. There could be more tariff news on the way. Why does this affect the crypto markets? Because as I said at the beginning of the video, it's not just crypto getting affected. And I know it's easy for us in our bubble of crypto to look at this and go, why is crypto falling? When I think we have to zoom out over here and we have to see that the stock market over here, this is the NASDAQ. It looks like an altcoin chart. It's in a free fall over here. S&P in a similar boat. The Dow Jones, similar boat. The Russell, in an even worse boat than all of them, smashing through the 200-day moving average, hitting its lowest point that we have seen since August of last year. Again, this looks like an altcoin chart. So the traditional markets, the traditional risk markets like the stock market, they're getting peppered here as well. Now, this is where things start to get weird. We look at the oil markets over here, and we're seeing that these are in a pretty nasty downturn since the start of this year. You look at the 10-year bond or the 10-year yields. These have been in a downtrend since the start of this year, smashing through its 200-day moving average. We look at the DXY, which is the strength of the US dollar index, or the strength of the US dollar. This has also been in a downtrend since the start of this year. Now, I bring this up because it's not often that we see the 10-year yields point down, the strength of the dollar point down, oil point down, stocks point down, and crypto point down all at the same time. And I think that that's kind of telling of the spot that we're in here. And again, it's not just crypto that's being affected, and that's why I want to bring this up in the first place. So if you're feeling pain and you feel like it's isolated to just the crypto markets, it certainly isn't, and you're not alone here. In fact, investors, even the ones that are trying to be more risk off, are feeling the same kind of pain. And, although they might be feeling a little bit less than some of the crypto investors here, there's a lot that's going on. So I don't want everyone to be overwhelmed and looking at just what's happening in crypto and to be nervous about this, because there still are some really positive things happening in the background over here. And in fact, we have some big names that are coming out and saying, hey, we're actually doubling down here on Bitcoin. So what about this one? Well, this is just in. Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas, with a net worth of almost $6 billion, says that he is allocating 70% of his portfolio to Bitcoin. Now, was he doing this at 110K, 100K, 90K? No. He's doing this now that Bitcoin is back down to around $80,000. He's saying, I think that we are at a fire sale price down here, and I have billions of dollars. I could easily never have to touch an investment again. However, I am so confident with Bitcoin at $80,000 that I am allocating the large majority of my portfolio on Bitcoin here. I am making a big bet that Bitcoin at 80K is a fire sale, which is why, again, he doesn't have to. He has almost $6 billion. Does he ever have to touch anything again? No. The next 10 generations might never have to touch a job again or make an investment again, and they could just live off of what he has. However, he's looking at it here and saying, I believe so much in Bitcoin at 80K that I'm going to be placing a bet on it down here. On top of this, what do we see? Well, ARK Investments is buying $8 million worth of Coinbase shares. This comes out to be almost 39,000 shares of Coinbase as of Monday. However, we are seeing a little bit of ETF outflows. Now, ARK isn't the only one that's seeing ETF outflows here. In fact, if we look across the board on this left chart over here, the spot Bitcoin ETF flows from just about every provider is actually seeing pretty substantial outflows. And we've started to see this downturn in recent weeks. For the bulk of February, there have been a number of outflows. So there's been fears, is this institutional selling? Is it retail selling? Is it, governments? Like, who is doing this? And the truthful answer here is it looks to be a mix of just about everyone. It's not like it's one side or the other. We are kind of seeing an even distribution of selling, at least from what I can see. So again, we're seeing it on exchanges, we're seeing it on DeFi platforms, we're also seeing it on the ETS, that there is selling kind of happening here across the board. So it's not like it's just like one institution or one thing. And another one of the topics that we've talked about in previous videos is that there's a bunch of catalysts at work that are pushing prices down to where we're at over here. However, if we go back to the charts, I'm keeping a close eye on Bitcoin anywhere around this 80K area. In fact, we could go as low as our previous all-time high over here, right around the low 70s. I think it's another phenomenal area to look at on Bitcoin for support. However, we are continuing to see Bitcoin find a little bit of support around this 200-day moving average, around this AVWAP or this anchored VWAP from our previous low. And so Bitcoin is defending this $82,000, $83,000, $84,000 price area. We've already seen it defend it for the last week or so, and it's continuing to try to do that as we are moving into this first week of March. So keep a close eye on what's happening over here on Bitcoin. Again, the altcoin market is getting hit maybe a little bit harder. We've started to see that some of these altcoins were pushing up, but they've sold back off. We've seen it in Solana. We've seen it in Ethereum pushing down below $2,000 for the first time since, I think, November of 2023. And even over here on XRP, which is actually holding up quite well, I'm only falling to the lowest point that we've seen in a couple of days. So XRP definitely looks like it's going to be one of the stronger performers in the short term, but crypto across the board is at a big old area of support here, and it's certainly something that I'm keeping an eye on. And that, again, I think when we look at these prices, what could happen in the next week or month, right? We kind of toss our hands up and say, hey, there could be a lot of volatility in the next month. However, when we zoom out at the bigger picture, what could happen over the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? I think the one thing that most of us can agree on is that an $80,000 Bitcoin still looks like a fire sale, which is why I get excited seeing these kind of prices low. Again, ARK's buying, these billionaires are buying, a lot of people are still buying and accumulating. And so that's kind of the narrative that I'm taking here. Is again, short-term pain, but I'm a long-term bull because I do believe that we can go a whole lot higher than what we've seen so far, especially in that zoomed out bigger picture. So I hope all of you found this video entertaining. Again, I hope you found it insightful. There's a lot of different things that are going on, a lot of different moving pieces. However, I want everyone to understand what is happening behind the scenes and to always take a deep breath, step back for a second, and look at the bigger picture. And it's at moments like this that I feel like we have to do that. So that's going to go ahead and round us off for this video, everyone. Again, thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one. Now, if you are a new member here and you want to get plugged in to a great crypto community, you can head down to the links in the description down below. You can join us at Crypt Nation, where you can find thousands of other like-minded individuals, talk about what cryptos you're interested in, maybe trade plans, different kinds of altcoins that you find interesting, ask questions and get answered, and all sorts of things like that with thousands of other like-minded people. So if you want a link to that, head down to the description down below. You can also find a really great book that my good buddy Bryce Paul wrote called The Crypto Revolution down there as well. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you at the same time, same place next week.